I think every company in this industry, if they want to expand their service offerings and their vehicle types, we can all be disruptors to the truckload business, the LTL business, because we can do things at courier speed that they just can't. There's a whole movement in this industry and in the economy about faster, right?
Yeah.
You know, the Amazon effect. Well, that's true. Well, I like to think that we bring the Amazon effect to freight. So if they need a tractor trailer an hour from now, they can give us a call. If they want a tractor flatbed tomorrow, give us a call. If they want it now, we might have one for them in 10 minutes.
What frustrates me a lot in this space, when I talk to owners, operators who we got to get into pricing, and the rates that they're saying they're charging are the same rates I heard people using 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
You're exactly right.
And everything has changed except for the pricing. We know on demand by design typically should be higher margin work. When you're doing commercial on demand, I would imagine those are healthier margins in the business. Is that true?
Hello, my name is Mark Cossack. I am the CEO of Courier Experts, and you are watching the Last to First podcast.
Story time with drop-off. The lab test that just couldn't wait. A hospital system needed a delivery fast. The patient was prepped, the doctors were waiting, and time was just not on their side. Enter drop-off. Drop-off showed up with the certified driver, temperature-controlled equipment, and live updates along the way. That wasn't just moving a package, it was saving a life. And that's the type of reliability that drop-off brings in 35 plus markets across the US. Powered by smart technology, but always with people and drivers who care. Turn this story into your reality. Visit dropoff.com today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our next episode on the Last to First podcast. You know what it is. We bring you the latest and greatest, the innovators, moving the space from last to first in today's and tomorrow's supply chain. And joining me today is a guest that I am excited to talk about. Someone I've known for over 10 years. He just told me I haven't pronounced his name right in 10 years. So we're going to see if I get this right now. But I got none other than Mark Cossack. See, I got it right. Mark Cossack, who is the CEO of Priority Courier Experts. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jason. Great to be here.
I got the name right.
You did.
It took me 10 years.
Absolutely. Well, you know, better late than never.
Better late than never. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
We've been serving on the board together for many years. I have learned a tremendous amount from you.
And me from you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so what I really want to do in this interview is to talk about you, your business, and then a lot of things that are happening in the industry from a government affairs, legislative perspective that I think the audience can benefit from.
Certainly.
Yeah, so because you've had boatloads of experience on that side of it. But first, let's let the audience know what Priority Courier Experts does, kind of who you are, your background, where you do it at. Give some sense of the business.
Sure. We are an interstate motor carrier located in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. We started in 1997.
Okay.
My two brothers, Steve and Jim Cossack, started the business with 3 vans and a strip mall store, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's a typical family business that started. You know, they started up the business. My dad and I invested. They worked hard. It kept growing and growing and growing. Now, during this whole time, I was not in trucking. I was not in courier.
Okay.
I was in technology. Okay.
You're a tech guy.
Yeah, I was a tech guy. I was a computer science guy.
Okay.
So then, but the company kept getting bigger and bigger. And about 2009, my brother Steve talked me into heading over there. I was the vice president for Ameriprise Financial, and I ran their technology architecture area, infrastructure area, software, everything.
Okay.
So this was a complete career shift, but it was great. It was great. You know, I had been doing that for, 20 plus years. It was time for a change.
Yeah.
You know, this first mile, last mile is a very innovative environment. It's very rapid paced. And I was really looking forward to working in a business where the decision I made today contributed to the success of the business tomorrow.
Yeah.
When you're at really large companies, you can be a cog in a wheel, right? When you're in a family business, you just have so much more incentive. Your success is your family's success.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You have that ownership piece.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So we basically transport everything from tissue samples to tractor trailers.
Tissue samples to trailer. That's a big range.
Tissue samples to tractor trailers, right. So if you look at our website, priority.com, we are the Priority Courier Experts.
I love it.
Okay. You look at our vehicles, we have everything right from cars to vans to Sprinter vans to 26-foot dock trucks to tractor trailers to tractor flatbeds. to curtain sides and Conestogas.
Yeah.
Our goal is to be able to cover any need that the customer has, large or small, close or far. Now, to be honest, we do the vast majority of our business within 150 miles of Minneapolis.
Okay. Yeah.
We certainly do hot shots, kind of across the country, but that's not our big deal. Our big deal is within,
150-mile radius.
150 miles radius. And that was going along well, and I'll leave maybe the transition story for
tell me
later.
how many drivers got in Minneapolis right now? I'm gonna get to the expansion. I know there's some expansion happening, but just for the core base business in Minneapolis.
Prior to any addition, prior to any acquisition, we were about a 420, 430 driver fleet in the Minneapolis area, split between parcel vehicles, which we consider cars and vans, and commercial vehicles, anything over 10,000.
And what was roughly the split on the two from large vehicle, I call them large vehicle, small vehicle?
Revenue-wise?
No, just the fleet, for a number of drivers that were operating large equipment.
Out of that 440, we probably had 225 or 230 that were parcel, and the rest were commercial. Wow. So at that time, we were probably running 120 dock trucks, 26-foot, 33 GVW CDL dock trucks, probably running 40 tractor trailers, flatbeds, curtain sides.
All right, so I'm gonna stop you there because I want to dig deep in that. Because typically, when you talk to final mile companies in this space, you don't hear a company has 100+ straight trucks, right? That's not common. At least from a on-demand standpoint, which I know is kind of what you guys do. So, one, I guess I gave it away. Is most of that commercial truck work on demand? Is it routed, scheduled?
We are probably 60% on demand.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
40% scheduled, routed.
We've all heard the saying before: trust but verify. But in the last mile, when you're working with agents and master contractors, verification is manual, complex, and very rarely achieved. Enter GigSafe. GigSafe solved the problem that matters to you most. They've built a new network compliance tool that ties in master contractors, agents, and carriers so they can connect, validate, and authenticate their delivery and driver networks. With automated onboarding, live compliance tracking, and insurance verification, all happening in real time. No spreadsheets, no follow-ups, no more hoping that my partners are doing it right. Just one connected platform where visibility and control are at every layer of your operation. Turn your compliance into your competitive advantage. Visit gigsafe.com today. 60% on demand with straight trucks, bigger trucks.
Yes, really with all of our business, to be honest. Even the parcel business, it doesn't matter.
Okay. How do you, in my experience, I've operated some straight trucks in the past. Most of it was scheduled, routed type stuff, milk routes, we call them. You have a different model in place. Describe that model and how it's effective.
I would say we have both. We have exactly what you're describing. We certainly have customers who have dedicated dock trucks that they take for the whole day on a regular basis, recurring work.
Yeah.
And the rest is just we pick up the phone in the morning and we get it. Because what you will find, and this is an expansion option for everybody out there, what we found is that the people who had our Sprinter vans, when we asked them, say, if we brought a 26-foot dock truck here, do you have any freight that we could haul in addition? Probably 70% of them said yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, what we can offer, what this industry can offer that LTL and truckload can't, is we can deliver freight at courier speed. They deliver freight at trucking speed. They talk days and weeks. We talk hours and minutes. And that's valuable. There's a whole movement in this industry and in the economy about faster, right?
Yeah.
The Amazon effect. Well, that's true. Well, I like to think that we bring the Amazon effect to freight. Okay. So if they need a tractor trailer an hour from now, they can give us a call.
Yeah.
If they want a tractor flatbed tomorrow, give us a call. If they want it now, we might have one for them in 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
And scale gets to be important.
Yes.
When you're considering things like this.
Yes.
I mean, when we started, obviously we grew our commercial business from the very first dock truck.
Yeah.
Right. And when you start, it's nice to have routes. It's nice to have the distribution work. And that's great. Once that gets bigger and bigger, first of all, each dock truck on the road is a floating billboard for your company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just as an aside, we've tracked where our drivers come from.
Yeah.
And invariably over the last 10 years, our number 3 source for drivers is they saw our truck. Okay.
That's your,
so if you brand your trucks,
yeah,
right, or pay your ICs to brand your trucks, they'll do that. So once you get that volume up, then the on-demand starts to flow. And we have a lot of on-demand drivers who they won't take routes and distribution anymore because you will make more in on-demand commercial than you will in routed and distribution for the most part.
All right, so I want to go even deeper here because this is you're bringing up the chicken and egg concept, right? Most people, to your point, when they're starting off, especially the bigger equipment, in my experience, and you're using ICs, right? These are independent contractors.
100% independent contractors.
100% ICs, which we'll get into that model in a second. Typically, to your point, it's hard to find an IC early on unless you have scheduled work. You got to keep the driver busy all day long. That's how you kind of attract them. So it sounds like you started off kind of doing that, finding some scheduled distribution type stuff, lower margin, but consistent. But then you're able to build off of that with the on-demand piece. Walk through how you actually did that.
Yeah, and there's multiple ways to do it.
Okay.
If you're just starting off in the commercial space, you may have to use what I would call bridge employee drivers. Okay, you can't have an IC come onto your fleet and work for 2 hours a day. He's going to starve.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had employee drivers until you got to, and each market's different, until you got to 8, 9, 10,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to know when the time's right to start transitioning those vehicles from employees to ICs.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as those trucks are bringing in enough revenue repeatedly, whether that be from on demand or whether that be from routed distribution, now they're ready for ICs.
You want to flip it into that.
Then you flip into that model.
Is that what you guys did? That flip? You went from W2 to IC?
We started our commercial fleet with W2s.
Okay.
And then it got to a certain number. We decided the time was right. We flipped it over, moved, and never looked back.
Got it. Second question I have is the other challenge you have when you're operating bigger commercial trucks is finding the drivers with the equipment. You have an IC model, right? It's not easy. It could be market specific. It's more challenging in certain markets. But how do you solve the problem of, hey, I got to find a driver that has a straight truck, maybe need a lift gate, maybe doing some refrigerator trucking work, and it's a different segment. But like the consistency of the vehicle of that size is a challenge, particularly on demand. How have you guys navigated that?
Yeah, it is. We have, and again, look at our website, priority.com, or go to drivewithpriority.com, and you will see we've had a lease purchase program for a long time.
A lease purchase, okay.
So
like trucking.
What our company does is it will buy the vehicles, not just dock trucks and tractor trailers, but sprinters,
okay,
small trucks.
Yeah,
buy them all, lease them to the drivers. When the vehicle's paid off, we give them the title, and it's theirs. Okay.
Okay.
So that's one way that you can do it.
Got it.
That especially enables the even larger vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you're just going for an IC that has his own vehicle, you are likely, not all the time, but you're likely to get a 26 GV truck or under. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For which you do not need a Class B CDL. So you don't need a CDL.
Mm-hmm.
You can drive it, but your payloads are going to be about half of what our trucks are. When we buy dock trucks, we buy them 33 GVW dock trucks, which means a Class B CDL. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Payload is how much freight you can actually transport on that vehicle.
Yep. And thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
So what we will get an additional 7,000 to 8,000 pounds of payload over a 26 GVW truck. And this is even more important. What we found is that CDL drivers are better drivers than non-CDL drivers. They're more professional driver.
Yeah.
Doesn't take that much to get your Class B. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have not found it to be a big impediment to go to the Class B trucks.
Okay.
Because then what you also get is you got a guy who has a CDL. He's driving Class B for you for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And now you want to get into tractor trailers, right? He goes and upgrades to a Class A and can now drive tractor trailers for you.
Yeah, so you're kind of building that bench as you grow.
So you've got that lease purchase program, and that's one way you can do it. And let's face it, the the truckload companies, truckload, over the road, LTL, they have had lease purchase programs for 40 years. There's nothing new about this in the world except we brought it to the courier space.
Why don't most people do that?
I think most people don't do that because as you're starting out, if you're going to buy the trucks and lease them, it requires an owner many times to do a personal guarantee on a loan.
Mm.
Not all owners are willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my brother Steve, he's a risk taker, a real entrepreneur, and when he started that, he simply made the commitment and went and never looked back. So he had some backbone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to, if you don't want to do that, you can obviously always go and lease the trucks from Penske or Ryder. Okay. But you will never have a lease purchase program.
Mm.
And there's many advantages to a lease purchase program. In that world, your attrition rate is going to fall dramatically. You're going to keep your drivers around a lot longer. They're going to show up and work because they've got a nut to cover.
Yeah.
They've got that vehicle payment. And it's the best of both worlds for them, too. They are building equity in a vehicle every day they drive it.
Mm-hmm.
So an average dock truck, 33 GVW straight truck, they're going to pay their truck off in 5 to 6 years, depending on what term you get. And when they get the title, their truck's probably going to be worth $40,000, $40,000 or $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So they're building an asset for themselves every day.
Yeah.
If you're leasing from Penske or Ryder, they will never build that asset. But the owner doesn't have the same level of liability. So that's kind of a gut check you have to make.
Yeah.
Do you really want to jump in the deep end and you want to get to a program that's quite frankly more attractive to the driver?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go and don't look back.
Yeah.
Swim like hell and you'll make it, right?
What happens if there's a driver that goes into the lease to purchase program and you say it takes 5-6 years maybe to get through that, but end of year one it's not working out. Maybe it's not working for them. Maybe lost the business, lost the route, whatever.
Sure.
So what's the recourse?
That happens if a driver can't make it. He simply says I'm done. Gives you the proper notification.
Mm-hmm.
Truck goes back into your fleet. You lease it to the next IC and you move on. And a word of advice is don't sign 5-year leases with these guys.
Mm.
Sign shorter leases.
Mm-hmm.
Do 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
What that does a number of things for you. What it does is that the driver's looking at you and he realizes he's not making a 5-year commitment.
Mm-hmm.
So he feels a little more emboldened. You as a company, you're not taking a 5-year risk on somebody.
Yeah.
What if you have a 5-year lease with somebody and they're just not a good driver and they don't show up?
You don't want them there 5 years. And
now they take your asset and go work for someone else. Because you have to have what's called a bona fide lease. Okay. If you're in court for worker classification, unemployment, workers' comp, reclassification, whatever, if your lease isn't bona fide, really meaning just truly valid,
mm-hmm.
that's a problem. And a bona fide lease, the vehicle is theirs.
Yes.
Okay. You can obviously repossess it if they don't make payments.
Yep.
But if you give it to them for 5 years and they go drive for someone else for 4.5, it's probably not a great deal. So I would recommend short leases.
Other what's popping in my head structurally, do you have a separate entity like a leasing company that does this versus the actual operating entity?
Some motor carriers do, and some don't.
Okay.
The real big boys, they do. I mean, go on the web and look at Schneider National, for example. They have a separate company.
Okay.
And a lot of them do. If you're small and you're starting out, the problem with trying to do a separate company is that company obviously has to have income, credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of cases, it's just the motor carrier itself.
Yeah.
Because that's where all your revenue's flowing through.
Yeah. There's no capacity.
That's where your P&L is.
Yeah.
That's what a bank's going to want to see to give you the loans.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we'll segue a little bit, but on topic, to do on-demand work, 60% of it in these type of vehicles, who are the types of clients that you are targeting that's using these services?
Sure. There is almost every industry represented in on-demand. Those drivers we have spread out, like I said, we have no more than 5% of our revenue to any one company, and we bill thousands of customers a week. Okay.
Yeah.
So any sort of construction is prime for this. Manufacturing is prime for this. Manufacturing has moved to just in time a while ago on their inventory, right?
Yeah.
They need things quickly. There isn't really any industry that doesn't use this. It's really surprising.
Give me not name the company, but it's like what the
Electrical suppliers,
okay.
HVAC,
Yeah.
roofing, plumbing.
Bigger equipment, things that need to move past the job sites, construction sites.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. In a Sprinter van with a side door and a back door, you can kind of get 2 pallets. You could maybe squeeze 3 in, but then your forklift is banging up the vehicle.
Yeah.
So really, anything over 2 pallets for the most part, you probably want to put in a dock truck.
Yeah.
Or else like I said, you're going to get your property all banged up.
Yeah. Do you find that there's we were at an event last night talking to a lot of newer players, operators in the final mile, last mile space. In the last mile world, we've all used technology that looks good but doesn't get the job done. That's why different is different. Built by Courier pros with over 35 years of real-world operational experience. Sorting freight, dispatching drivers, missed scans. They built the technology platform that they always needed. You get lightning-fast dispatching and routing, a driver app that eliminates confusion and adds visibility. Back office automation and tools from on-demand to air freight, all in one place. Need proof? Their courier business grew 300% in just 3 weeks without any new hires and managing 150 drivers. Ready for tech that gets it? Visit deliverdifferent.com and book your demo today. Who are trying to find direct client relationships. They love working with carriers such as yourself, other larger regional companies, but they say, I want to get my first customer. It seems like what this model may allow you to do, it seems like these customers are more localized because you're delivering to job sites, construction sites, maybe plumbers, electrical supply companies.
They're virtually, yes, you're
So
right.
Everywhere.
They're virtually all local. And what we found is in most of the manufacturing and construction and distribution industries, even when they're part of a national company, the decision on what company they choose for the final mile is usually left up to them. Okay? So you have an in. Okay? If you're going to job sites and you're seeing shingles brought by one company, I would bet you within 80 miles, someone's making the decision on which company they're going to use for that. Okay. Same with all sorts of supplies, wiring. Every town will have probably 3 to 5 major electrical distributors.
Yeah.
Okay. And they supply all the wiring and the components and the switches and everything to homes, big buildings. They all make the decisions locally. As we're expanding, across the country, even when we have common customers in other cities, we still have to sell into that city this service because they're the ones making the decisions, not the ones back in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's a decentralized.
We found it's a decentralized model largely to decide who they use.
Yeah. This is a nugget for all y'all out there that always ask me, how do I get my first direct customer? Hope you paid attention to that. Electrical supply companies, construction companies, they're there for you. All right, so the last part of this I want to get into are margins, right? So we spend a lot of time, I told you off camera, what frustrates me a lot in this space when I talk to owners, operators who we got to get into pricing, and the rates that they're saying they're charging are the same rates I heard people using 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
You're exactly right.
And everything has changed except for the pricing. We know on demand by design typically should be higher margin work. When you're doing commercial on demand, I would imagine those are healthier margins in the business. Is that true?
The end profit is bigger, but it's not because of the margin difference. And here's what I mean. It depends how your company pays. There's a lot of companies who will pay the contractor a certain percentage of billed revenue. Common model, payment model in the IC. So whether you're delivering a paycheck for paychecks or you're delivering a pallet to a construction site, we might make the same percentage. Okay. But my pallet delivery brings me, $125 delivery, and the paychecks delivery brings you $8
if you're lucky.
So when you're really talking margin, imagine that you do an awful lot of commercial work versus small truck work. Okay. you're going to dispatch 8, 9, 10 runs to a dock truck during the day. To a car or a van, you're probably going to have to do 25 or 30
to get the same number,
because that's to keep them busy all day, right? You're going to make a lot more off the dock truck. It's going to take less dispatcher work to do it, so you have less people doing it. So the margin difference is not just in what you pay the contractor, it's how many staff you have to have running your shop.
Yeah.
So the more small package on demand kind of stuff you do, where when you're dispatching $10 runs, it's like self-flagellation sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You're just making very little on it.
Yeah.
Whereas if every run you're dispatching is averaging, $60, $80, $100, big difference.
Yeah.
That's where the big margins come in.
And this is why it's so important. We talk about it a lot, understanding your cost. I think
absolutely.
You're making a great point, because a lot of times when people hear, they think about, oh, what's the driver pay? What's the fuel? What's maybe maintenance? What's the direct cost? But there's a whole set of indirect costs, which you're talking about now, that happen inside the four walls of the office.
That's
and
right.
Depending on the type of work you take on, and I totally missed this early in my career too. I got burned a few times because you just never think about it until you're sitting like, oh shit, excuse me for my friends. My mom hates when I curse, but sorry, Mom. But I missed a whole set of costs that aren't direct costs, because this particular type of delivery or vertical, I need a lot more administrative support.
That's right.
And
everything manual you have to do in the office should reflect on that customer, from my perspective. It's not just what's coming to them after you pay the driver. If you're not taking into account home office costs, you've got a problem. And realistically, the future of this industry, there are more and more non-value add small parcel deliveries being made by companies, like DoorDash and crowdsource models. I'll tell you what, there's no crowdsource model where they're going to drop a pallet in the back of a DoorDash driver's vehicle. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything that our industry can do that is specialized, that takes training, that takes certification, it's a win-win for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a number of customers who've tried crowdsourcing. Okay. And then all of a sudden, they send a housewife in there to take 2 big 5-gallon buckets of paint up the stairs to a construction site. And guess what? It ain't going to happen. So we've had many crowdsources come back. But, we've lost the ankle biter kind of stuff, the occasional flower delivery from a shop. Well, DoorDash can do that. That's not a lot of value add.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the expansion stuff. So I know recently your family, you guys sold the business to a private equity firm.
Right.
I want to thank you for taking this ride on the Last of First journey with us. In 6 months, we've achieved over 200,000 views across all our platforms. We're humbled and thankful for your support. But I do have one small favor to ask. Take 5 seconds, hit the like button or subscribe. Just like your on-time performance metric, this one matters to us the most. It helps us attract better guests and bring you deeper content to help propel you on your Last of First journey. And if your brand aligns with our mission, reach out to us. We'd love to find ways to partner and work together. Now back to Last of First. Walk through the thought process there. Why did you guys exit or strategically bring them in? And then second part of it is what's the vision going forward?
Yeah, we wanted to continue growing. Someone with 450 drivers would normally be spread out across 5 states. That really wasn't our strategy at the time. We were more a saturation market kind of strategy, and we wanted to continue growing. But to fund all that, when you had one primary owner, my brother Steve, to put all that debt on one person's back, that was difficult. So if we wanted to acquire company after company, that would have been a huge burden on one person financially. So he said, you know what, let's look at something else. He was at a stage of his life where he was also looking at other things. I mean, he had worked in the industry for 30 years.
Yeah.
After 30 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Time to smell some roses.
Right.
So we decided, let's do that. And then we bought a local company in Minneapolis, to bring us up to about 600 drivers in Minneapolis. We bought Now Courier in Indianapolis. Fantastic owner there, Ryan Schwalbach.
Yep.
Great guy. Good, solid company.
Phenomenal.
And yeah, great guy. and we're looking to continue that expansion. And because if you really want to do something like that, you need more access to capital than a typical person has.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to do it.
Yeah. Now, when you're looking at targets now, because your model in Minneapolis was unique, are you looking at targets that say, I mean, I don't think there's very many guys that probably are like you, at least from my vantage point, in other markets. So when you look out there, what are the core things you may be looking at? And then is the thesis to then take our blueprint we had here and kind of try to replicate it there?
Yes, our strategy is to basically take Priority Courier Experts in a box, bring it to the other companies, and if they don't have some of the features we have, add it on.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, any acquisition we make, we want to learn from them, and we hope they learn from us, right?
Yeah.
But we would not do an acquisition, let's say, to a small package distribution company and simply keep it that way.
Right.
Anything that we buy, we're going to want to have a full range. So any customer we go to, we're going to say, if you've got a car need, we can meet it. A van need, fine. Dock truck, no problem. You want a tractor trailer, good. Oh boy, you need all the way up to a tractor flatbed? Okay, let's get into that. So it's like a full service shop, because invariably, there's very few of our customers that use our commercial vehicles that do not also use our parcel vehicles.
The cut just depends on the freight they need at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if they're putting stuff in the back of a van, they have some cargo to ship.
Yeah.
What are the odds that the only size cargo they have to ship fits within a Transit, or a Sprinter?
Yeah.
It's very, very small.
Very rare. Yeah. Well, that's what I love about our space. That's why we changed the name of our association years ago to the customized logistics, because you can right size that vehicle to the client's needs, specs, by the job.
That's right. I think every company in this industry, if they want to expand their service offerings and their vehicle types, we can all be disruptors to the truckload business, the LTL business, because we can do things at courier speed that they just can't. You can get things there quick. You can get big stuff there quick. And we can just do things that they can't. All our systems are set up for that.
Yeah.
Okay? When you look at the trucking management systems for large companies, they're not set up for things by the minute and to do everything at the speed we do it.
A couple of questions. So now, when was the acquisition or the sale?
It was July of 23. So
Okay.
about 2 years.
Okay, so a couple of years. What has changed since then in your role? So like a lot of times you hear people, one of the downsides is I'll go to private equity route. Private equity, right or wrong, is known for, they want to buy something, they want to build the asset up, and 5-7 year strategy, whatever it may be, sell it back off. And so a lot of decisions sometimes may change, the priorities may change in terms of how you would address or solve a problem versus short-term thinking versus long-term thinking. Has that been your experience? Did anything really shift in terms of how you guys are going about your work?
Not too much. I always try to make the decision that I think is in the best long-term interest of the company going forward. Because you're right, the natural private equity model everywhere, there's nothing new with us as anyone else, is they're going to buy you, they're going to grow you, and in a certain number of years, you're either going to sell to a larger private equity or into a strategic or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. My goal is to make sure that when that eventually happens, that my crew is together, that we're operating just as good or better than we are today, and we brought more capabilities to every one of the acquisitions we've made, and we're primed and ready to go. Because I think the relationships you have with your employees are just so critical. At that next stage, let's face it, the private equity company's gone, but these people are my friends. I've worked with them for a long time.
Yeah.
I want to keep that team together. I want to be kind to them.
Yeah.
I want to respect them, because you know what? They're the ones carrying on the legacy of the company.
Yeah.
It's not the private equity companies. They're going to be gone at some point, and that's fine. That's fine. That's capitalism today.
That's what it is.
So don't feel bad about it. There's the people we work with, the people at Trident and Blue Jay are great people to work with. Love them all. But that's just the model. Eventually that flip will happen. And you know what? When that happens, your team is still your team.
Yeah.
And whoever acquires them, if you don't have a solid team, first of all, you might not get a very good price.
That's true.
And the flip would be much harder. So stay true to your team, stay true to your corporate values.
Yeah.
And if you do that, and you have a PE company that doesn't respect any of that, well, then you're just not with the right people. But that should be part of the vetting process at the time you're selling, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You have to tell them how you run the company, why you do it the way you do it.
Yeah.
And if there's a good match in your values and them, you're set. If you get a lot of silence and you get a lot of, well, we do it this way, just know what could happen.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. I just sold my business 4 years ago,
Yeah.
went through it. And when I do advise companies now, they ask for my opinion about what the process was like for me. The mistake I think people make all the time is that they feel like it's a one-way interview. Like the buyer has all the rights to ask all the questions on them, and they produce. Oh no,
Great
you
point.
need to be interviewing them just as much.
Absolutely.
You asked me riding over here, how was my situation with drop off, right?
Right.
And I think I gave an honest answer. It was a great, but I think it was a tribute to. We spent 9 months, and I asked just as many questions to them as they asked to me. Probably got a little aggravated with me at some points. But it was because of all the things you're saying, right? I understood why we were successful, and I didn't want that to be disrupted totally. I know this change is going to be made, obviously, but you have to get really comfortable with that before you get in bed with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I asked them questions about what sort of decisions would you be making? What sort of decisions am I going to be making?
Mm-hmm.
Scopes and limits of authority. Those things are all important.
Yeah.
And if you're kind of clear going in, then it'll be fine. We're perfectly fine with the way things have turned out, and it's just fine.
Yeah.
You have to realize there is a new owner at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you're the ones running the company, and if your heart's not into it, there's going to be problems.
Yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit because I want to touch on one of the first things that I really appreciated about you. There's a lot that I appreciate about you was your background in technology, and we've seen, you mentioned earlier, the space is innovative. I think certainly the last 5, maybe 10 years, you start seeing that a lot more. But historically speaking, this space has not been that innovative. I think we're still playing a little catch up, but we're coming pretty fast. When you're looking ahead now, everybody's talking about AI. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I'll be honest, it terrified me. I was like, shit, we're doomed. But I think there's certainly several opportunities now where companies can leverage technologies available to them. What are the things you're looking at, the things that you pay attention to from a tech standpoint, and how have they been positively impactful on the organization?
Yeah, I think certainly in the telematics space, anything you can do around safety for monitoring other vehicles. We've talked about forward-facing cameras. It's tough to force it. You can't really force an IC to get one, but there are ways that if they get certain other products, you can make it a requirement to have that, because 70% of the time those cameras are going to help you.
Yeah.
Right? I would strongly recommend that any vehicle you buy has as much automatic braking and collision mitigation as you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because number one, you don't want to be caught in a lawsuit at some point if one of your trucks hits somebody and they said, well, you spec'd this vehicle out and you didn't include any safety equipment.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
Certainly the telematics are going to tell you when your drivers are speeding, when they're harsh braking, all of those things. And especially on the commercial space, if you get into the ELDs, electronic logging devices, there's a lot of information you can gather from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Certainly in the temperature control space, which you know way more about than I do, the tech has always been there, and that's important.
Yeah.
GPS and tracking has been critical, still is. We're updating our website now, so it'll basically appear like Uber, where you can watch your vehicles. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good and bad in the on-demand space, right?
That could be tough, yeah.
Vehicle that's heading your way might suddenly go and deliver someone else's product, right? So you kind of got to be careful what you show the customer sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So go ahead, finish.
There's an awful lot of situations where tech will get you so far, but if your drivers aren't safety oriented, it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If they're careless at the dock, if they're damaging equipment, you can have all the safety equipment you want, and it's not going to help.
This is a big topic for me, because I think obviously I've been in insurance the last couple of years. I've grown an appreciation for risk management. Never thought about it really seriously before. When we had our business, my mom kind of managed the insurance. I was aware of it, but not really involved in it. And coming on this side now, like, I have a much deeper appreciation for the things you can do and put in place. But the first challenge that is when you're operating the IC model, you made the point, is like, how can it borderlines on this control aspect, right? Because all these tools that give us this visibility borderline on control. We're going to talk about misclassification here in a second. So the challenge here is to figure out how do you do two things at once? How do you do things that seem to be in opposition of each other? How do you position this in a way where it's for everyone's benefit? The driver more so than the company and the carrier, in my opinion. But you gotta get them to buy into it, them to invest into it, them to understand the value of it. Because if not, it's got to be kind of ultimately their decision.
Yeah, I think there are some things that are coming that will help. And again, I think you know more about this than I, but the captive model has kind of been in the trucking space and gaining steam in there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, when it came out, captives didn't like ICs, okay? But we're starting to see a bit of a sea change in that.
Mm-hmm.
The more captives will accept independent contractors. Well, now if something's the requirement of the insurance policy, it's not so bad. You're not forcing the IC to do anything. It simply comes with the policy.
Mm-hmm.
With lease purchase programs, for example, the insurance usually comes with the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if the vehicle's insured, by a captive, and it's an asset you bought, you can put that forward-facing camera right in there.
Yeah.
And it was required by your insurance company. It's not something you did.
Yep.
And you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar, but not too different than you have a contract with an independent contractor driver now that says, hey, certain conditions have to be met for me to bid a contract with you.
Right.
You can structure that in a similar way through different vehicles, captive insurance programs, maybe the vehicle lease program, et cetera, where you can start to achieve that. I think that's something that the industry has to start to make a little bit more inroads on, because when I talk to the insurers, the guys that's paying for these exposure and these risks, the concern they have is like, there's no visibility. You guys, you're not like truckers, right? Truckers have flipped. Truckers, you made the point, 95% of them have an ELD, have telematics now. There's some evolution I think we have, and hopefully we can continue to grow in that direction, because I think it will certainly be beneficial, particularly we see rising insurance costs. That's not going to change unless you're going to actively take some control, some steps towards that.
Yeah, and when you get into a lease program again, if you're buying vehicles, I'm sure you should be putting asset trackers in the vehicle. You don't want a guy driving off your vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Almost every asset tracker today also gives you telematics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so even if it's not an ELD, you're still going to get telematics from most electronics these days.
Yeah. Here's the thing that always has puzzled me is when I get into an Uber or a Lyft, most of these drivers have a little camera or something, telematics, something already there that they're doing on their own for whatever reason. Maybe it's tax purpose, maybe it's safety, whatever. So the psyche, the driver, you can't tell me the driver doesn't want this. I see them doing this in the Uber Lyft model. So I think it's just a matter of us using the right strategy, communication tips to show them how it's beneficial to them.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times Uber drivers might be afraid of their passengers, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
I mean, a pallet never rose up and hit my driver over the head yet. But
I don't know. I was watching a video today. There was some truck was transporting these big reels like steel.
Yes.
And the guy stopped too fast and it came through the back.
Yeah, we do that.
That's yeah. All right, so let's get into a topic that is near and dear to your heart. Something you've done for many years on the board, which is serve as the Director of Government Affairs for the CLD, for our association. Before we get into the questions, like, where did you develop your passion for advocacy and the legislative issues that are affecting our industry?
Well, where that really started for me is we were always able to drive sales ourselves. Okay, so then we had to decide if you can drive sales, because we've grown an awful lot since '97. If you can drive sales, what is the next threat to your business that's the most important? Because if you're a CEO, there's three things that you need to be concerned with. Three primary things. It's the top line, it's the bottom line, and it's risk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If you ignore risk, it can destroy both your top and bottom line.
Yeah.
The margin in an IC trucker business is simply better. We think the drivers are better. It's better for the motor carrier. It's better for the driver. They can make a good IC will make a lot more than an employee driver. A bad IC will flame out. There's the good and bad with any model, right? But the majority of ICs will make more than if they were employees. So it's good for them. It's good for us. And the last thing I wanted to do was see the government take that away from us.
Yeah.
And if the government were to take it away from you, they don't do it nicely either. It would come in a class action lawsuit or a Department of Labor audit, where you could potentially be faced with multiple years of penalties, and it could be a major deal.
I'm gonna park you for a second. Like, walk our audience through like a real world example, whether it be something you experienced directly or you're aware of it through your other work. How these claims come up, like where they initiate from, these misclassification claims, these massive claims that come out. How do they start?
Okay, there's probably three primary areas. First of all, this is going to seem disconnected, but it isn't. If any of your drivers don't of your ICs don't have occupational accident, make sure they get it.
Why is that? What is that, and why is that?
Occupational accidents pays an independent contractor driver replaces wages up to a certain amount per week and a certain amount per injury for anything received on the job. Mm-hmm. And here's why. If an IC is driving for you and he has no occupational accident, well, that means he's definitely hasn't purchased workers' comp for himself, and he gets hurt on the job, the sympathy that they will get in a court of law is huge.
Yeah. So
you can guarantee that if they're hurt seriously on the job and they have no insurance at all and they're an IC, it doesn't take long for an ankle biter or an ambulance chaser to find them, and you will probably face a misclassification suit, or you'll definitely face a workers' comp claim. And of course, to defend yourself against workers' comp, you have to claim IC defense. Claim IC defense. You better have met the criteria in your state. Each state is different.
Yeah.
So be aware of your state regulations. Look them up. If you don't know, use Grok. It's great for looking up legislation.
Grok?
Grok is Elon Musk's AI engine. Oh, just like ChatGPT.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Make sure you know what the criteria are in your state. So if someone gets hurt, that can happen. If someone suddenly stops driving for you and they're just upset, they'll file an unemployment claim. So you may have to defend yourself against an unemployment claim. You have to claim IC status, go through an administrative law judge. Again, you have to prove the criteria. Some states, the criteria for workers' comp and unemployment are the same. You're lucky. Some cases are different. Okay. Now, the granddaddy of them all can be a Department of Labor audit from the federal government, which I've been through, and they're no fun either.
I have too.
Right. And you say, where do those come from? They can be random, or they can be from a driver who made a complaint. You can find if a driver makes a complaint, you can get audited by the DOL. It was no coincidence that there's a driver who came to us, made an unemployment claim, administrative law judge went through that process and said, nope, they're an IC, no problem, right? Thought we had it won, and we did on that front. But suddenly, knock, 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 3 months later, I get visited from the DOL, and they're using a lot of the same terms that driver who made the unemployment claim made. So I know it was his complaint that kicked it off.
Yeah.
And that began a 1.25 years journey with the with the Department of Labor. And we prevailed in that one too, but it's just a big headache. So that's kind of where my passion came from. I didn't want anything that was going to fundamentally risk our business model.
Yeah. We had one, I mentioned we sold our business to drop off. We signed the letter of intent in January 2020, right before COVID. We got a DOL audit February or something.
Oh, no.
It's not terrible timing, right? And then COVID hit March. I was like, Jesus Christ, what is going on here? Fortunately, not to go into details now, maybe it's in a podcast episode, but we prevailed, but it is very disruptive. It is very scary. You're on pins and needles, because what happens if that goes through? Like, what's the worst part about it?
Here's what will happen. If the Department of Labor decides against you, they can basically say that they believe your drivers are independent our employees should be W-2s, and you need to reclassify.
Yeah.
You can refuse to do so. And then, let's say that happened to 10 companies. The Department of Labor then has to decide which of those companies is it worth bringing a lawsuit to force them to change? They may look at the facts of the case and say, we said they should be W-2s, but they're kind of on the bubble, and they may not prosecute that case. Others, if the facts are bad, they'll bring lawsuit against you and force you to do it. And then there's penalties. Okay? Because, bad facts make bad trials. You kind of have to be honest with yourself, folks.
Yeah.
If you're not treating your drivers like contractors, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
Because eventually, one way or another, workers' comp, unemployment, Department of Labor, one of these things, someday it's going to hit you where you're going to have to defend the practice of how you handle your drivers.
Yep.
So do it right. It's a hassle. Don't force dispatch. Yeah, it's a hassle, but you know what? Get over it.
Yeah, yeah. Do you use a third-party administrator? What are some things that you do to mitigate this?
We've never used a third-party administrator.
Why is that?
We grew up doing it ourselves, and quite frankly, we're able to do things faster, which sounds strange, okay? But when a driver comes in, the real-time checks we can make, in the Minneapolis area, we can get all the verifications done in a matter of minutes. And we check more than the standard things. Like we'll check sex offender background checks and other things anyhow. So we're into some manual checks. Last thing I'm going to do is contract with a sex offender and send them into a school.
Yeah.
So the kind of checks we made, we can do them fast. We can do them for free. Okay. And anything you can do to reduce the charge that an independent contractor has to pay is good. Get a direct deposit model worked out with your drivers. Most of the dispatch systems today will basically spit out what your payments are, what you owe your drivers.
Yep.
We send a spreadsheet over to Wells Fargo, boom, direct deposits are made. It's not very hard.
So the way I was always kind of taught into like the using a third party administrator kind of puts a little buffer between you on this misclassification piece, because now you're not the employer of record, you're not the one that's directly paying the IC. There's a middle person that's in there managing that, but also the compliance side, the piece you mentioned too, like on the onboarding side, the front end side of it too. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. I think it's a large depends on how you operate, how good are you at these details, because you can't miss.
If your facts are good, it doesn't matter if you're using a third-party administrator or not. If your facts are bad, you've got problems. It really doesn't matter. So to say they're a third party in there, yeah, maybe they are. But I've been in front of judges, and we had a separate company set up as a TPA, and the judge looked at me right in the face and said, "These guys are really driving for you, aren't they? This is really all you, anyhow, isn't it? At the end of the day, what am I going to say?"
No,
it's not how the TPA treats your driver; it's how the motor carrier treats the driver.
Yeah, yeah.
So, because that driver is going to bring in all the facts. If you're, he may be recording how you talk to him on the phone or on a radio. He may be saving your texts that your dispatcher send him. He can be doing a lot of things. And at that point, it doesn't matter if someone's supposedly between you and the driver.
Yeah.
Facts are going to determine the case, I think.
Yep, the facts are, and then what matters most. All right, so I want to shift into kind of your role with the CLDA, your experience as the Director of Government Affairs. What are the big issues, court cases, legislation, policy things that are happening at a federal level now that you have your eye on?
Okay. What has traditionally been something that we have advocated for tremendously, obviously, is the IC model. We've lobbied it in many different cases. There have been cases where, for example, Dick Durbin was trying to take away Section 530 protection from the IRS code. And what Section 530 says, you've got the whole IRS tax code, and there's this little bump out here called Section 530, and it's a motor carrier exemption, and it basically
safe harbor
protection,
yeah.
And it basically says if you've been treating your drivers as independent contractors, and you have a valid reason to do so, and another factor, it kind of offers you some protection. If you fail that safe harbor, then you go into a set of factors for the IRS, about 7 factors, which are more difficult to meet. So when they tried to pull that out, we got notification from Prime Policy, who is our lobbyist there, that they're trying to take it out. We went to Capitol Hill. We lobbied very hard, and Section 530 was preserved. That's a big win for the industry, actually.
Huge.
When in Trump's first term, we were able to get something into the tax bill through Eric Paulson, and it fell out in settlements or conferences between the Senate and the House, but that would have defined what the criteria were for an IC for the IRS.
Mm-hmm. Eric Paulson was a congressman.
Eric Paulson was a congressman from Minnesota, and we had a long-standing relationship with him. So I encourage you, develop relationships with politicians. Even if you don't like politicians, they're good people to know.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would have made the IRS tax criteria for an IC much easier to meet. Why is that important? Because basically every Department of Revenue across the U.S., the state people, they try to conform to federal rules. So a state Department of Revenue tries to comport with federal IRS when it comes to IC criteria.
Makes sense.
So that was kind of the beginning. And we are actively right now trying to get that language amended onto Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Mm-hmm.
And Prime Policy is working to try to get that done right now.
Yeah.
When the Paycheck Protection Act came about from COVID, it was not guaranteed, for example, that businesses were going to be able to deduct that. They were going to potentially have to pay taxes on that, and it was going to be a bad deal. So we lobbied very hard. And indeed now, we weren't the only ones, obviously, but you got to have all oars in the water when you're trying to get something across the finish line.
Yeah.
And we think we helped contribute to the deductibility of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So whenever something pops up like that, we get in there. And it takes a long time to do these things. To do something in D.C., you may fail 8 times in a row, and you never know when you're going to get in.
Yeah.
The reason we're trying to get into his bill right now is that it's a reconciliation bill that doesn't have to go through the filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
There are difficulties with that, but if you don't try, when you have the White House, the Senate, and the House, when are you going to try, right?
Right.
That's why we're trying now.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting about this, and this is another area where I probably have appreciated you the most and your experience the most, is we've had these debates on the board over the years. I haven't always been the biggest believer in the government affairs from a standpoint of, does it attract membership, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, I've gone through a Department of Labor audit. I've seen the benefits of what the advocacy work does. I think it's something that you have to play offense. Like, you have to constantly be playing. You have to be in the game, because you never know when something may pop up, and you want to be positioned to react and respond to it quickly enough and not be starting from ground zero. That said, when we think about the companies that are supporting this work in the industry, the reality is not everyone is carrying their own weight.
That's right.
And what's challenging about that is that, and this is not even a CLDA push for anything like that, but just when you're in this space and you start to understand, and typically when you get to a certain revenue size where you start to think about not just making payroll, but like, okay, how do I sustain this business? What's the message you use to those companies as to why you should invest into this, even if it's a nominal amount of money? Like, why should you pay into this pot?
Yeah, it's kind of a conscience thing, to be honest. Do you always want someone else to carry your water? Do you want to be in the fight? If you're a small company, can you do $50 a month? Can you do $100 a month? Because I'll tell you, the bigger you get, the more you're going to worry about this.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a really small company, if you're a $500,000 company, you got 8 vans, you've got enough problems that you're probably not worrying about this as much.
Right.
Okay. But do you want an environment in which, if you do become successful and you go from 8 vehicles to 50 to 100 to 200, all of a sudden now your business is at mega risk? No, you don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the companies involved in government affairs and most active are some of the bigger companies, because they realize, and these are smart people, big staffs, important lawyers, right? Yeah. They understand that remember, top line, bottom line risk, if that risk strikes down the profitability of their business model, the value of their business falls. You ever want to sell your company in the future, maybe? You ever want to get it to a size and sell it and retire with a nice nest egg? Well, what happens if the value of your company's dropped in half? It's a big deal.
Huge.
Families work, sometimes multi-generations to get these nest eggs built up. Mm-hmm. And if suddenly the value of your company is cut in half, it doesn't fly.
Yeah.
Because it's not just an increased expense. Here's the other thing they have to realize. If everything had to be a full boat W-2 all the time, the advantage that courier companies have over private fleets shrinks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The cost advantage we have now is significant. We get to reuse hardware and trucks, more fully optimized. All that's good.
Yep.
And the labor model is different. But if our costs go up almost to the cost of a private fleet, bad deal.
Yeah. We're not able to differentiate our value prop as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I want to segue as we get towards the end of the conversation here about the personal side of this. We talk a lot about the professional side of it. How long have you been in the industry now? Like
2009 is when I went in. So
2009. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I don't think we talk about this enough is how your mental health, physical health is outside of the four walls of your office, right? So all these things that we got to come inside and solve, you got to be good on the outside coming in. You're a family man. I've enjoyed seeing, your relationship with your wife, your grandkids. We talk a lot about the kids often. What are the things that you do outside of the office that make you show up in a way where you can be at your best?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. You at some point you have to realize there's bigger things than you. So faith is a big part of my life, always has been, and family too, because you have to find a stress outlet when you leave the office. Quite frankly, I find that with my kids and grandkids. Got 9 grandkids now, ranging from 11 down to 1. So Christmas has suddenly transferred into complete bedlam at my place.
I bet you love it too.
Yeah, it's great. And we live on a lake, and they all come over, and it's nice. But definitely, as much as you can, take care of yourself physically, take care of yourself spiritually. You need to rely. There are other bigger and more important things in the world. On our deathbed, we'll have hope our family is set up properly.
Yeah.
And you've been able to spend enough time with them. If you spend so much time at work that you're ignoring your wife and your family and your grandkids, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do something else. Get some help.
Mm-hmm.
Bring some people in to help you.
Yeah. It's super important. I'm glad you touched on that. It's super important. Something that I think it's one of the things you don't know till you know when you've had challenges. So I think it's important. I like to bring it up in these episodes just because I think it's important you have that conversation, because you can talk about all the X's and O's of being successful in a company, but you mentioned people earlier, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a big deal. At this stage of my career, I'm working for my grandkids, and I'm working for the loyalty I have to the staff at the company.
Mm-hmm.
They're all great people. Salt of the earth people, very hardworking. When I came from a Fortune 300 background, and when I transitioned, I noticed a difference in the people. Quite frankly, at the real big companies, you're kind of a cog in the machine.
Yep.
The people at our company were much more loyal to the company, much harder working,
mm-hmm.
and much more dedicated. So have those sort of attributes, reflect those back onto your employees if you can.
Yeah.
Stand up for them. Give them as much as you can.
Yeah.
For example, it wasn't only 7 years ago, we paid for the college tuition of anyone of the kids of anyone who worked for us.
Wow.
Okay? And we sent multiple kids to college. We paid them at the University of Minnesota rate. Well, the state of Minnesota decides to put a fourth income tax tier on and took a chunk out of our profitability, so that program went.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we always look for ways to be as rewarding as we can to our employees.
Yeah,
we would give our, a new mom, she would get about 12 weeks of 100% paid leave.
Oh.
Well, in small family companies, that was kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
So do what you can for your employees. They'll appreciate it.
Yeah, I think well said. Last question for you. The future of the industry. You're someone that's been in it for many years. I think it's fair to say you're one of the true leaders of the space on many different fronts. You are now, you've sold some of the business off to a private equity firm. You guys are growing. 5 years from now, where do you see this industry going? And if I'm sitting there watching this episode right now, and let's say I'm I'm $1 million company. I say I'm just kind of getting over that threshold, $1 million. What are the things I should be looking at and thinking about to be successful in the future?
I honestly think you should not be afraid of stretching beyond your current capabilities. Don't stay comfortable just delivering small packages if that's all you do, or just delivering medical. Okay, get your customer concentration down if you can. You don't want to be in a situation where you have customers who are 50% of your revenue. Those are going out of business sales when you lose those customers. I think the future of the industry is still bright. Okay, we are going to have pressure from crowdsource for little pickups that don't require skills, but don't let it overly scare you. Try to go into markets that aren't like that.
Yeah.
Where you need certifications like we talked about earlier before, whether you do medical stuff, whether you do construction things, whether you do hazmat, whether you do TSA, okay? Anything that requires certification. The pace of society is not going to decrease. It's going to increase. The speed of everything is going to be faster. So I think trends kind of favor our industry, but what they don't favor is the timid. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I've known a lot of owners in this space, since 2009. It's not ancient, but the most successful ones are the ones who struck out and tried things they had never done before, weren't afraid of it. And, the owners in this industry, if you don't have a backbone, if you're not brave, you're probably in the wrong industry, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you won't survive too long.
You won't survive too long. So try things you haven't done. Know the profitability of your work.
Yeah.
Do what's profitable. Don't compete for the bottom dollar with the DoorDash people on $4 deliveries.
Yeah, be different.
It's just kind of a suicide pact between you and your drivers. Your drivers can't make any money. You burn out. All the costs in the office. So I think the future of the industry is still bright. Yeah. I do.
Well, Mark, thanks for being on the episode. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've appreciated our relationship over the years. I appreciate everything you've done for the industry. Not enough gets said about the work and the leadership that you have portrayed and exhibited throughout your career, but specifically on the government affairs piece. That's a huge piece. And if you're out there listening, I strongly suggest you try to get involved in whatever capacity you can. But more importantly, man, this was a great interview. There's so many different nuggets dropped. So I hope you go back and replay this, rewind it a few times, because I probably will, because I'm still learning. But
Jason, thank you for having me. I've appreciated becoming your friend and seeing the leadership you provide to the industry. You've taken the association through some tough times, and you've done it with a steady hand and a deft hand, and I really appreciate it. And everybody I know values your leadership.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.